Okay, wonderful. Hello. Hi, everyone. My name is Christina DiGiacomo, and I'm actually taking the place of Kathleen Caldwell today, who is off to an annual luncheon that she's been hosting for 11 years. And so I'm very honored to be of assistance today to Nancy Giere and our program. So welcome. So this is the C-Suite Network Women's Coaching and Consulting Council program with Nancy Giere called Monetize Your Experience with Courses and Content. So just a little bit about Nancy. She is one of the Women's Coaching and Consulting Council esteemed faculty members. She's on a lifelong campaign to abandon boring training. I love that. Yes. I need to talk to you because I've got some philosophy students who are kind of dozing off. So we gotta work on that. To abandon boring training, marketing, and presentations. She is a wizard at making training and presentations fun and engaging, blending humor with valuable insights. Nancy is a member of leading workforce development organizations, including the National Speakers Association, Association for Talent Development, and the International Society for Performance Improvement. Nancy Giere is here to share her expertise on how to monetize your expertise with courses and content. Let's give her a warm welcome. Thank you, Nancy, so much for being here. Okay, so just a little bit about the Women's Coaching and Consulting Council. This is a group that I'm a part of. Susan Younger, you're a member of this group. And essentially, it's a wonderful community of women in the coaching and consulting domain who all have various levels of expertise, but are always looking for more information, tools, guidance, support, and community on how to make their businesses thrive. And that is something that Kathleen Caldwell has really cultivated over decades of experience. She's an award-winning coach and consultant. She's an author. She's also part of the C-Suite Network Thought Council, and she just is a rock star. So we love you, Kathleen, and thank you so much for the opportunity for Nancy to share her knowledge with everyone. Okay, so here we are with Nancy. And I already introduced you, Nancy. Sorry, this is when I was supposed to introduce you, but
That's
I'll
okay.
just, maybe introduce myself. And my name is Christina DiGiacomo, and I'm actually a philosopher. I teach philosophy to business executives. I have a program called Everyday Philosophy. I'm also the co-founder and chief philosophy officer for the C-Suite Network Technology Council. And I'm also Kathleen's group as an esteemed faculty member and speaker. So today I'm really excited because Nancy's going to talk to us about courses. And I really do believe that this is an important arm to any good coach's business. And it is an art, it is a science, and so I'm really glad that Nancy's here to talk to us today. Okay, Nancy.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Christina, for being our host for the meeting today. We're gonna have some fun, and because we've got a small group, this will probably take on more of a conversational tone as we go. But I do have some key ideas that I want to share with you. So let's get everything started. So we're going to talk about Under Your Brilliance, which is one of my taglines, and it ties into monetizing your expertise with courses and content. All right, my technology. So here's the thing. Anybody with a computer can create an online course. And I believe, like I said, here's the thing, it's good, it's a good thing, and it's a bad thing. Because of what we've all just lived through in the pandemic, what happened is a lot of people panicked because what am I going to do? Where's my business going to go? What's the next move that I make? So I know I'm going to do a bunch of webinars. And then I'm going to record my webinar. And then I'm going to put it up on my website and say, I have an online course. And you don't. What you have is a recording. Now, there's nothing wrong with selling recordings of your events. But what you want to do is be clear with people. This is a program that I did on April 19th at 10 a.m. And I think you're going to love it. And you position it that way. So when people receive it, their perception of what they're going to get is different. And I don't know about all of you, but I've had moments where I have felt like this guy. Anybody ever else felt like this guy when they were taking a course? And maybe I should share my slide. How about that? Anybody feel like this guy, right? You're like, oh my God, when is this thing ever going to end? I can't take it anymore. And that was the end result of what we went through, which to a certain extent has given online courses a bit of a bad rap, because I believe that there is a whole missing link in all of this, that unless you're in the business of course creation, you perhaps missed, which is having solid program design. People just kind of haphazardly put information out there and hoping it would stick. And when you're creating a course, it's different than putting a lot of content out there on your social media platforms as a way to have visibility. Certainly you want to have a plan about what you're going to post on social media. But if the content is a bit random, if it's different ideas and it looks different all the time in terms of sometimes it's video, sometimes it's an audiogram, sometimes it's a meme, sometimes it's text, whatever it is, the fact that it's kind of changing, that gets people's attention. And there doesn't necessarily have to be a theme other than that it directly connects to the work you do and who you serve. So when we go to put together a course, we have to think about it. How do we want to structure it so that it will be very effective? And everything starts with having some sort of a plan. And the first part of the plan is to think about, well, what are the different ways that I want to reach out to my audience? So when I think about this from the perspective of our group as coaches and consultants, there's really 5 different options that you can consider. And as we go through the different options, you're offering more and more. So as we move down the list, the more of your time, certainly the more value and the more you can charge for a program. So if we start out and we look at the first level would be an on-demand program, which is set up where it's really independent study. It's me at my computer consuming the information, and it'll be a series of videos, interactive activities, and it's a very solitary experience. The next level up from there is to think about doing something that I call live online, which is where you're doing a virtual event on a platform like Zoom, where we are today, and you have an opportunity to engage people in conversation. You can ask questions, you can put people into breakout rooms. There's all different types of interactive elements that you can engage in using the Zoom platform. Then the next thing you could consider is offering a membership program. So in your membership program, you'll probably have some on-demand courses that people can take, but there's also either a Facebook group or a community that is part of one of the platforms, like Kajabi has a community platform. There's a program called Circle, which is designed for community. And so you have a place for people to gather, they can interact with each other, and then you can decide how often you want to show up in the membership group. I'm working on a project now where one of the key elements for her is how often is she going to show up in the group to make sure that the group stays vital and active. They have a group now, no one's been in there since 2019. So if I go to that group and the last post I see is 2019, there's a good chance I'm not going to stay. So we're going to start a whole new group and refresh it and make it more fun and engaging. And the next level up from there that you could consider is doing sort of a group program. And that's where you'll decide, is there a regular cadence of meetings that you're going to have with your group? And you can put it on top of, so that group program then can also have membership. It can also have the live online programs, and it can also have the on-demand programs. So it's just continuing kind of to stack more ways of engaging with your people. And then the highest level is doing something that is what I would consider high-end, high touch. Now, when we talk about high-end, high touch, this is where you're meeting with people, what you're doing, one-on-one coaching. Perhaps you're doing a VIP event. There's where you're bringing people to a fabulous place, or just a nice hotel, whatever makes sense, where everybody's gathering together and you're creating, yet again, another experience. Now we're sort of things are now starting to shift in that we are in a time now where getting people to events online is becoming more and more challenging. Christine and I were talking about that before we came on today, because now, you know what, we can leave the house, we can meet people in person. And so now it's shifting. So what you do in an online format, whether it's in the Zoom setting like we are today, or that online course that's independent study, the value of it has to go up because people are not stuck at home anymore thinking, well, you know what, I think I'm going to learn to play the guitar, or, whatever the topic is. So and it needs to be tighter, and it needs to be really, they got to feel like they're getting something for their money if they're going to stay, because oftentimes people will sign up, but then the completion rates aren't that great. Now, just kind of as a sidebar, e-learning, online learning, whatever you want to call it, has been around for a very long time. And corporations use it all the time because you've got a distributed workforce. So you need e-learning to be able to reach everybody in your company. But what happened during the pandemic is it exploded, and it made it more available to more people to deliver. Just as now, the explosion we're living through is AI. It's been around for a long time, but only the big players could use it. Then last year, there's this proliferation of tools that started where it's putting it into the hands of just about anyone. And we can talk more about that as we go here today. So any questions or comments about what I've talked about so far? Is there anything that anybody's doing now that you're finding to be really successful, or you'd like, I'd like to know a little bit more about that?
Yeah, I just have a question about
Sure.
your different models. Do they coincide with maybe a size of a group, or does it matter? Like, do some models work better for large groups or small groups? Like, can you give us a little bit more, or elaborate a little bit more about the characteristics of
Sure.
each of those models?
So if you're looking at something that's the on-demand course, that's unlimited. As many people as possible that can purchase, they can come in and they can do it, because it's, once you build it, it's one and done. You don't really need to be involved with it once you put it out into the world. When you're working in Zoom, I've been in groups like this where we have a half a dozen people. I participated in a group that was run by Mary Morrissey, and there were 2,500 people, and they had multiple Zoom rooms running, and they had digital producers supporting that, because you can imagine, how can you handle the Q&A for that large of a group? And it worked very well in the way that they delivered the content, because they mixed up what we were doing. It wasn't just hearing from her and people on her team. There were they were running videos. They gave us personal reflection exercises to do. So they kept everything moving. So in those two situations, size isn't a challenge, and in a membership group, the size isn't the same, but as the numbers grow up, the number of people that you have monitoring the membership group and what's going on changes. I've been in groups where there's somebody who's designated just to watch what's happening in the group to make sure that no one's being a jerk and that the conversation is all, productive. So that it becomes, as the membership increases, then you need more support to manage the group. There might be somebody that's like looking at the group, and let's say it's Susan's group, and would say, hey, Susan, there's a half a dozen different comments about this topic. You need to go in and you need to weigh in on it so that people can hear from you. Group mentoring, I think if groups get beyond 12 people, it can get a little bit unwieldy and people don't get as much attention as they need. Having said that, there's some groups that are around 25 people. It's okay. But when everybody introduces themselves, you've eaten up like a half an hour. So it's so you want to think about given the nature of the content, how that would dictate the group size. 12 seems to be a good number to me. And then when you're doing the more high-end types of programs, that you've got your one-on-one clients, and then if maybe you're running groups, and then maybe you bring everybody together into a larger type of a gather. Like, well, because they're in person, they had a better experience, or because they were on Zoom, they had a better experience. So those are some things to sort of to keep in mind. There's the nuances in all of this.
So Nancy, I just want to jump in here and make sure that we're still tracking on what you want to share, but I also want to say a quick hello to Diane and Virginia, who have also joined. Hello. So
you.
Nancy, okay, you've decided on the type of course that you want, like, you've decided on the model. So what happens next?
Okay, so that's where I'm going. What I want to share with you now is another thing to consider when we're doing this is, so what's the pricing going to look like? And I have a spreadsheet. I'm going to drop this in the chat for all of you. And of course, you want to have me in speaker view so that you can see everything very, very clearly, because I'm not able to control that with the technology that I'm using. So through the magic of Keynote, let's just look at what this is filled out. So if I am working at the first level, doing an on-demand online course, and I have 100 people, and the course is priced at $50, and it's just a one-time offer because it's out there all the time. The revenue there is $5,000. And I can do a live online program. I get 50 people. Let's say I charge $25. Now I'm at 7,500. Then there's offering things like the master classes, the membership program. But the key thing I want you to look at on here, because this is a group of coaches and consultants, is look at the numbers for group mentoring and doing a high ticket program. If I have 15 people in a group mentoring program and it's $5,000 and I offer it 4 times a year, it's a pretty good payday, right? And the same thing with the high ticket program. What I think has happened is people were so focused on online and all the people out there saying you can make $1 million in your pajamas and you never have to leave the house and blah, 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 blah. Here, it's a numbers game. Like any sales activity, if you have a huge list and you get 10% of the people to buy, it's great. But if your list is smaller and you're focusing on really marketing the heck out of an online program, your payday isn't going to be as great. So I think it's probably easier to sell more group programs and more one-on-one programs as coaches and consultants, and have an online and virtual element built into it. Because what that does is it saves you time. Think about the types of content that you say over and over and over again. Every client, every time when you're onboarding them, it's the same drill. So if you can take that information and package it into an online format, you can direct your clients to say, I want you to go and I want you to do the first module in the course and complete the exercise. So then when they come to the group or they come to their one-on-one session with you, you can go deeper because the basics have been covered. Does that make sense? And that's like the equation that I've really been flipping on. So once you kind of get a sense of what type of program do you want to offer, now you want to think about, okay, well, whom do I serve? And really get dialed into who that market is. And really, like any other sales situation, think through, how is your program going to impact them? And when they're done, what do you want them to know, to do, and feel? And if you don't take anything else away from today, take that question with you. When I'm training someone in whatever format it is, there's this, I want them to know more than when they started. I want them to be able to do something they couldn't do before, and I want them to feel differently. Then step back and say, well, what makes me unique? So I've got 2 different people now that I'm working with in the leadership development space. Their take on it is different. One of them is focused on helping women to gain gender parity. That's, that we're all going to, that equality is finally going to get here, ladies, right? That's like her sweet spot of what she does. The other person looks at real-time leadership. So they're coming at it from different angles. They've got different background and different experience to bring to the table. And that all needs to be infused in what they do, because that's what's going to attract their ideal client to them.
Nancy.
Any questions or comments based on that?
Well, so Diane actually has a question that does also go back to audience, that ties to what you're talking about. Diane, do you want to read your question?
I am, I don't have a headset and I'm in a public
Oh,
place.
okay, so I'll read it. I'll read it for you. So, Nancy, I do not have a large list. So what I am hearing is that it's better money-wise for me to try to sell them a higher ticket or subscription and focus less on the online demand.
That's what I believe to be true, because you can only reach so many people, right? So if you can focus more on the high ticket and have the online component be built into it. And sometimes it's, I find when I'm working, I take my own advice. So anybody that works with me in a group or one-on-one, they get my online course. And they see it as it's a bonus. It's a special, it's, oh, I get that too. Oh, and it's a valuable bonus in that it's directly connected to the work that we're going to do together. It's not, here's this cool thing that you can have because you're working. And then on the question, the platform to house the courses. Yes, we will talk a little bit about that as well. So we've talked about kind of getting a sense from a business model angle, really thinking about we're looking at it then from a revenue perspective, what makes the most sense to do. Now I want to really take you into thinking more about this from the design angle. And I like to start by looking at this from the perspective of the entertainment industry. A great story usually starts in a book. And the book is a solitary experience. And we use our imagination to bring the characters to life and the scenes and the setting. And we can linger over it as long as we want, or we can race through it in a weekend because it's like this great mystery and you want to find out who did it. But then the book becomes a play, and now we have a shift because we have a stage, we have actors, there's a setting. So some of the things are being filled in for us. We still use our imagination to a certain extent. The thing about the play is it's time bound. It's usually going to not last more than a couple of hours, and it's going to be divided into acts or scenes. So if you have a book that's thousands of pages, and then you go to the stage, we have to think about what decisions do I make now because I'm switching from one platform to another. How do I make this? So think about your own content as you move from one platform to another. How do I make it work? Then the play becomes a movie. Again, the movie is time bound, but I've got different opportunities and constraints with the movie than I did with the play. I can shoot on location. I can shoot in any order that I want. It's a different medium. There's different ways of thinking about it. And this is where oftentimes I think people can get lost, is trying to go from an in-person event to a virtual event to go, well, okay, how do I leverage where I am now? And then of course it could be a TV series. And here we go. Now we go back, we have a lot more time because you can create something that's, 20 episodes, an hour each, and you can, so you've got more of an opportunity to share more content. So that's a way I want you to think about what you're doing and really look at what's going on in entertainment and how can you bring what happens in entertainment into what you're doing. And one key idea that I want to share with you about this is when you're getting ready to produce your videos, think about when you watch a movie or a TV show, the news, whatever it is, the scenes are changing like this. And what do we do when we create a video? We have a lot of talking head. We have a lot of time that we spend on one slide. And I believe, I'm not a scientist, but I believe this to be true, that because we've been consuming content on screens for our whole lives, we're expecting things to change quickly, and they don't. And I think there's like this disconnect that goes on in our heads because we're waiting for something to happen and nothing is happening. And there's so many opportunities now to curate beautiful images and B-roll footage at a very low cost. Why not really amp up what you're doing so that you can have a lot of changes going on in your video? Because it all comes down to really stepping back and saying, what am I designing? Am I doing something, if I'm thinking in the virtual side of things, is it going to be live online? Am I going to bring in a community? Am I going to add in games, gamification? That's become a big deal where people move up different levels. There's awards and there's badges along the way. And then once you have all of that kind of knowledge around, okay, where am I going? What are the possibilities? Then you start to brainstorm your ideas around, okay, what am I going to cover? How am I going to organize it? I love the Post-it note method to organize my ideas. Then from there, coming up with what your topics are, coming up with a way to structure and organize them. And then, of course, the big question that everybody has that we'll spend a little bit of time on now is, okay, if I build it, will they come? And there's a lot out there. Let me just wrap up this point, and then I'll take that question. Is, do I sell it and then have people come? Or do I build it and then sell it? And my recommendation is that you do some primary research and find out if your audience likes your idea and if they're going to be on board with it, if it's going to solve a pain point, and then move forward and start the building after doing some primary market research. You don't want to sell something. You don't want to be, if you sell it first, you risk being able to get it built at the quality that you would like in time. If you wait until the thing is fully built before you sell it, you risk then offering something that nobody wants. All right, so looks like we've got some questions here.
Well, I actually wanted to go back to something
For some
that
reason, I can't hear you, Christina.
Oh, hello?
I think something might have happened on my end. Yep, it did.
Okay.
There we go. Okay.
Okay.
Every now and then Zoom just randomly changes audio tracks on me.
Yeah. I want to go back because as you were talking through the design piece and putting everything together, what I noticed is that you start with like a lot of information and a lot of ideas, like in that brainstorm session, and then you slowly, iteratively then create the structure. And I think a lot of people, including myself, start with a structure first and then start to fill things in. And so what I noticed about your process is it's like the opposite. And the way you're posing it makes more sense. Because then you're not missing out on maybe a really good idea or something creative.
Mhm.
Because if you start with the structure first, or your topics first, you're basically filling in those topics. You're filling in that structure as opposed to allowing the structure to appear as you go through the process of editing and organizing all the ideas.
Mhm.
Do I have that
Well,
right? Do I have your
well,
process
there is a
right?
structure, and what I chose to not talk about today is the instructional design model that I use and I apply to all my courses. You know, I happen to have a master's degree in it, you know, yay me. And I worked through it in all of my programs. But what I've done here and what I tried to do this morning is to say, before you even get into some of that structure, is you have to have a sense of what is it that you're going to, what is it that you're going to build? Who are you going to build it for? And what is the outcome? And that's really like the first step in the model is to really get this big picture view of where you want to go and who it's for. And then once you kind of do this analysis at the front end around the who and the what, then you move into the how am I going to build it? And to be able to make decisions around how are you going to build it or create it, you need to know what type of program you're building. So if you're building something that's an in-person experience, there's certain opportunities and constraints there, just as there are opportunities and constraints in an online e-learning format, as there are in doing things on Zoom. So you have to think about, you have to know what you are designing toward. You know, if I'm designing a video, there's certain things that I can do in video. I'm designing an in-person event. There's certain things that I can do. So you want to know what it is you're building, and then the process where you're thinking about then you get to the what am I going to create, and then how am I going to create it, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, I got all that. I was just specifically zooming in on the fact that you started with brainstorming first,
Yes.
then topic selection, and then moving into organizing and structuring.
Yes.
So, which I feel like I've started with organizing and structuring
Okay, gotcha.
first. That's what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Like the process of putting the information, the topics, and the content together is different than how I usually do it, and probably a lot more fun and less frustrating.
I hope so.
So,
Well,
yeah.
yeah, because I think the content drives structure. I'm not going to teach somebody presentation skills in the same way that I'm going to teach them cybersecurity or that I'm going to teach them leadership, right? So the content would drive the structure. Or I did a program for Pacific Gas and Electric around welding, and that was a blended program. There were certain things that they did online to learn math skills, but eventually, you know, how we teach, we're not going to necessarily use e-learning to teach people how to weld. Now, having said that, with augmented reality, there's opportunities for people to practice and build muscle memory, but they still, at some point, they got to pick up the torch. They're not going to go right from the augmented reality experience to welding a gas pipe. What could possibly go wrong there, right?
Yeah, I don't know, huge like 5 alarm fire. So I don't want us to forget the question that was posed regarding platforms.
Yes.
Your recommendation related to platforms.
So there's two ways to look at the platforms. There's two distinct types of platforms. The first type of platform is your learning management system. And that's really that's the container where the course is going to reside. And there's lots of different options that are out there. And it's good to look at what are the different features and functions. Now, most of them have similar elements that you're going to have. There's going to be an opportunity to upload files. There's going to be an opportunity for quizzes. There's going to be an opportunity for other, to just really stack your content. So it's typically, you'll have a video perhaps, then you'll have a PDF file, then maybe there'll be a quiz. Some programs also have a community function built in. So you have to think about what's the experience that you want to create and then bump that up against what the different platforms are. Now, if we look at some of the big players, everybody knows about, Kajabi always comes up, Kartra always comes up. Those are all-in-one platforms where, in addition for you're being able to manage everything for your course, for people to buy it and to consume it, there's also an email, there's a whole marketing component tied into that. So that's one of the decisions is, do I want something that's going to be all in one, or am I okay with using the other tools that are out there, the ones that come to mind immediately? And I apologize to anybody that I'm leaving out, but Thinkific and Teachable and Podia come up. Now, those three tools, they don't have the email marketing integrated into it. So you would have to create an integration between whatever you're using for your email and the application. And some people are, they're like, I've been using Constant Contact forever, and I really don't want to move off of Constant Contact. I'm happy to just do an integration. And that's one of the things to consider is, do you want to go through the work of moving everybody from one platform to another? There's things you have to go through when you move a list to let everybody know, hey, I'm in a new place now. So, so that's the thing to consider. Teachable is not all in one. Kartra with the K, thank you. That is all in one, and it's Podia, Podia. So
it's Podia. So I'll look at Podia, Teachable, Katra, Kajabi, and who else?
And there's another player called New Zenler, which is an all-in-one system, and it does quite a bit of what Kartra and Kajabi do, and it's a much lower price point. Now, for those of us that are part of C-Suite, we have what's called the Marketing Cloud available to us, which is an all-in-one platform that has a place to house courses as well as do marketing, and I think it might even serve coffee. There's a lot of functionality in that tool. And we could talk just about platforms for a full hour, certainly. Now, another part to think about is there's tools that are called authoring tools, which they're tools for building courses in. And if you're selling in the corporate market, you might want to consider working with a product called Articulate. There's another product called Evolve, because they will output in a file format that will work on a corporate learning management system. Now, this is a pretty lengthy topic. We don't have a lot of time to get into it today, but if you're choosing to build in those tools to have that output to sell to into a corporation, where those courses can be housed, there is a bit more of a limitation. And the workaround for that is to use MemberPress with WordPress and get a plugin so that you can have the courses work effectively. And yes, thank you for putting New Zenler in there. It's a really good platform. And I will tell you this about it, as opposed to some of the other ones. You can get in New Zenler and you can poke around in there for free. And you don't have to purchase it until you're ready to pull the trigger on your courses. I think that these platforms are a bit like gym memberships in that people buy them and then they sit and they don't do anything with them. So I would encourage everybody to take a look at New Zenler. And then if you're interested in selling into the corporate market, that would be let's just continue that conversation. I can go more into the specifics about what types of platforms and tools you need to do if you want to go in that direction. So let's see. So I think that, and just really take a look and see, what do they have to offer and how can you make it work? I know in New Zenler, you can run your Zoom meetings through New Zenler. They do have a community function. So it is a really nice platform. And then what you can do in the Marketing Cloud through C-Suite, there's a lot of great functionality there in that it also allows for you to run your social media. There's just, I can't even go on the list of things that are in Marketing Cloud. And again, that's a whole nother, but kind of doing the whole evaluation, again, we could talk about that. That could be a whole nother program that we could do at another point in time. So let's see, any other kind of questions that have come through?
Yeah. So what are your thoughts about like those distribution platforms like Udemy
Okay.
And those, you know, because here's the thing. I mean, as with all of these things, it always ends up sometimes a race to the bottom, where it's like, you know, it started off where, you know, we could charge a pretty healthy amount for courses, and I think we still can if we're offering value and we're doing all of that. But all of a sudden it's like, you know, you get a full course on coding for like $50, and it's apples and oranges. But you know, these are the pricing models that people have in their minds for something
Yes.
on demand. Let's just speak to on demand, right? And so, you know, and then you've got your platforms like Udemy, who are always deeply discounting
Hmm.
these courses every heartbeat, so to acquire new customers to their platform, so your courses end up being like $10. So I just wanted to know if you had any comments or thoughts around that whole side of the
Yes.
business, and how should we hedge against these mental models of like, well, it's a digital course, so it should only cost like $30 or $40. Like, what do we do with that?
Well, you know, and there's digital courses that are anywhere from, you know, free to a few $100s easily. And when we look at a program, we look at things like Udemy. Many people use that as a marketing platform, as a way to expand their visibility. And that's an opportunity, excuse me, for people to gain some experience with you and decide if they want to work more with you.
Or which one did you say? Udemy?
Yes.
Okay, so they
And
use it more as a way to get out there?
it's a way to, and anything you put out on that platform, you can't duplicate someplace else. So it's a great place, I think, to just gain exposure to a market that you would not normally get. There are some restrictions around like how much you can do to promote yourself there. I don't have all the specifics, but I know people have kind of come up with workarounds for people to take a course there and then a way then to directly reach them if they want to do more. You know, it's similar to, you know, part of the whole sales cycle that a lot of people use in this space is really following the ascension model. So you start out with offering something for free, and then something that's a little bit more money, and a little, you know, and as the more they experience with you, the more they're willing to spend with you. And several years ago, I remember I had somebody say to me, you know, if I can get that much for free, just think what I'll get if I pay her. so so it's just, you know, it's all just part of the strategy. And I have not directly done anything with Udemy yet. I do know some people, they've had great success out there in having it be a way to get to a wider audience. And I think of it the way I would think about doing something more on LinkedIn. It's a way for me to reach more people there, or putting ads on Facebook, whatever you want to do. It's just another way to expand reach to get to more people. I'm going to very quickly, because, you know, we could talk about this all day, and I just want to wrap things up by looking at, okay, so AI is here, right? It's that train has left the station. Some people thought, it'll never last, but you know what? It's here. And it can really help in our work in building out courses and creating marketing material. And I like to think of it as I have this assistant who needs very specific instructions in order to provide me what I need to move forward. But what I want you to all think about is you did not wake up to be mediocre. And there is an opportunity, if people don't use AI properly, to create mediocre content. I think the beauty of it is we never have to start with a blank sheet of paper again. We can go in, we can pose questions, we can ask it, I want to create a course about LinkedIn, create an outline of what a LinkedIn course could include. And then I can look at that outline and I can make decisions about it if that's my expertise around, yeah, that makes sense, or no, I want to add this. It's a way to just have a start to think about what we want and use it to then to bring our creativity so we can spend more time being creative because we've got this great research arm. Now, having said that, proceed with caution if you're choosing to build a course on content that maybe isn't your expertise, because you may not know if that robot was hallucinating on that particular day and time when you posed the question. So what I want everybody to do is I want you to wake up and I want you to be brilliant. I want you to bring your best to everything that you do and create programs that are really going to make a difference for your clients. And by making a difference for your clients, it's going to make a difference for you in terms of your business, whether you want to have more time or more money or both, by taking some of your content and really thinking about how to package it in different ways to serve your market. You have a tremendous opportunity to be successful. So that wraps up what I wanted to share with you today. I would like to just post my contact information here, and I gotta move my head. I'm using this fun tool called Ecamm, so I gotta move my head out of the way.
I love that
So
you
if
can
you,
move your
isn't that crazy that I can do that?
little
If you would like to continue the conversation with me, to dig deeper into anything that we talked about today, I have my calendar link here for you. If you're interested in taking a look at my online course, I have a link for you to get to that. And I also wrote a book called Bundle Your Brilliance, Turn Your Expertise into Profitable Online Courses. And there's a link to get to the book as well. So I'll just leave this up here for a moment or two, and I'm happy to entertain a couple of final questions, maybe one final question before we close it.
Sure. So Diane
And my sound did that weird thing again. Hang on.
Can you hear me?
At least I know how to fix it. Anyway.
Yeah. So Diane put in the chat, speaking of LinkedIn courses, any idea on how to write for them? And I sort of have a follow-on question for that. Any information on how to actually get a LinkedIn course? Like, I know that they sometimes tap people to do courses. How do you have any information on that?
That is not something that I have directly looked into, but I do know someone who is regularly doing courses for them, and I'd be happy to make an introduction. And I'm sure, and then she can share with you about what she's doing. So
that would be great. I'd love
reach
that
out to me.
introduction. Maybe, Diane, I think would
Yeah.
probably love that introduction.
And I'm just having just a lovely day. My phone just died, Nancy, so I couldn't get your your last page. So if you could send that to me, or somehow if I might be able to get the slides or something, I apologize.
You know what I'll do is I'll just put my email in the chat here. If I can type.
I think I might have it. And I think we're LinkedIn, so I could reconnect that way too.
That's great. I'll just put my email in here. So if anybody needs something, just, that's the best way to reach me. And I also want to put this spreadsheet in here for you guys as well. It's way over here on the giant monitor. All right. Okay. So I think there's tremendous opportunity to bring learning in any form or fashion into the work that we do to help our clients. And I'm happy to continue the conversation anytime.
Great.
Because I
So
can talk about this all day.
yeah, thank you, Nancy, so much. I mean, it's like not even the tip of the iceberg that we hit today. I feel that, if anyone would like to share a takeaway, I know for me, the big takeaway for me was that whole like complete reversal on the content drives the structure portion of the course design. I thought was extremely helpful, and so I'm going to definitely employ that process. Does anyone else have a takeaway or anything that really stood out to them in terms of what Nancy had to say? Okay, so all right. So again, definitely reach out to Nancy. this is such a huge topic, but it could be so lucrative for all of us. We all have something to share. We all have knowledge and expertise to share, and this is a really great way to do it. So thank you again, Nancy. And I think everyone should be hitting Nancy up to meet with her and to uh, discover her content and also get some advising from her, hire her because she's really, she's been doing this for a really long time and knows a lot. So thank you, Nancy. And then also Kathleen just wanted everyone to know that she is available to have a one-on-one with her so that she can share with you how the C-Suite Network Women's Coaching and Consulting Council can really raise your visibility and also promote you, showcase you, highlight you. I know that I've probably done it almost 10 sessions in terms of classes or informational sessions. And all of those get put up on YouTube, they get promoted. Kathleen is very, very generous. So schedule your one-on-one with her and get to know her. Thank you all for coming today. Really appreciate you.
Yes.
Thank
And
you, everyone.
special thank you to my gals from the peninsula for joining.
Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you, Diane.
Thanks for your great questions, Diane. So they must be.
Yeah.
And stop the recording.
Yeah.